Am I being heard well? Yeah, awesome. So yeah, the topic is transformation as a product, applying discovery and iteration to change. And Paul already introduced me. I'm now founded a company together with some others called Better Product Work. And we believe the conventional way to build products is broken, and we challenge convention, partnering with visionary leaders who have the conviction to, as we, build high-performing organizations. But you listened to the keynote, all of you, I assume. So you heard about people taking product principles too far. And in this talk, I will say, not far enough. So how can we take them even further? That's what I want to explore. So maybe some of you have seen this comic. So we're with the consultancy firm Agile BS, Business Solutions, of course. And here's our plan for your Agile transformation. First, to really understand your organization, we'll observe and analyze your department for some time. And based on analysis, we will design and describe the transformation effort. Following, we will implement the new Agile processes. And lastly, we will test how the transformation works and integrate it with current processes across the organization. We expect the full transformation to take a couple of years. And the irony is, of course, that it looks like waterfall. And it would be funny if it wasn't true, or maybe it's funny because it's true. I don't know. But this is what I've seen a lot. Even in transformations to an agile way of working, that it is planned and executed like waterfall, and not involving the people, not being clear on why we're doing this, and it's more resistance is or if people question it or don't understand or seem reluctant to participate, it's viewed as resistant. That's normal. We should just overcome it and force buy-in and so on. And even when people started taking a more agile approach to change, for instance, in SAFe, there's this whole concept of a lace, and there are sprints and iterations, but it's more still only mimicking the practices of how an agile team would work rather than taking a real agile approach to change. So as Paul hinted, I'm these days working mainly with helping companies use the product operating model, and Evie did a good job warming you up and explaining it for you what it is in case you didn't know. But just to cross the T's and dot the I's, make sure we're on the same page. It means a set of principles reflecting what some of the best product companies have in common, a difference from traditional companies in how we build and deploy things, how we solve problems, and how we decide which problems to solve. And this is the Silicon Valley Product Group Marty Kagan definition, to which we've added, it's also a difference in how we lead and manage teams and people. Of course, Kagan and others talk about that as well, but we wanted really to put that front and center, which means it's a different culture. And we sometimes refer to these as product delivery, product discovery, product strategy, leadership, and culture. Yeah, and Marty Kagan, just so he actually coined the expression or started using that, the product model. He's also the person who invented the concept of, or who put a name to product discovery. He coined that term as well in these books. So this is also a view of the product model, I would say, that we have a business mission and objectives, the company purpose or goals, product vision and principles is the future that you're trying to create for your customers. And team topology is how we organize teams to best enable them to fulfill this vision and act on the product strategy that helps us decide which problems do we solve and why, based on data and insights. And objectives are used to communicate these problems to the teams, and discovery and delivery is used to help discover a solution and bring that solution to market. So our idea is basically what if we start transformations the way we want to finish them? So changing how we build and deploy, we have small frequent releases of change built to learn, experimentation infrastructure, feedback loops, scalable patterns instead of a big bang rollout. What if we solve problems in a different way? Invite, empower, and trust the teams and people to take ownership of the outcomes of the change or transformation figure out what works in their context rather than pushing training programs regardless of their context. And if we take a different approach in deciding which problems to solve, starting with a clear and compelling direction or vision, using an insights-based strategy, using a strategic focus, being transparent and communicating in the change. And lead and manage teams and people differently in the change as well. Modeling the way, actually acting in different ways in senior leadership teams and leadership positions, coaching and supporting rather than managing and directing. And then we would get something like this. So a change vision, a change strategy, change teams, and objectives for the teams, and giving them problems to solve and inviting them to figure out how to do that. This also opens up a view of applying product discovery to change and calling it change discovery. And what if we then could apply the same techniques that we have in product discovery in how we approach change or transformation? So let's start looking at the change vision and principles. So for us, it's very important when we start introducing change together with the client or enroll in a transformation to really be focusing on the outcomes. Why are we doing this? What are we actually trying to achieve? Because it's easy to see, oh, we have all these sorts of problems. On the left side, we have needs and pains and things, and this gives us ideas in product development about products and features and enhancements that we fall in love with. In change or transformation, the product model, agile, safe, and that starts becoming a goal in itself, and we quickly lose sight of, but what were we actually trying to accomplish? What outcomes are we trying to achieve for our users, the teams, or the people and the departments and so on, the employees, and what impact do we want that to have for our company? And this is not anything super novel or new. It's in a lot of change literature and so on. But I think that one difference in our approach, as we'll see, is more focus on. Sometimes when it's focusing on outcome, it's so far off that it's not really guiding the day-to-day decisions of teams and change teams and so on, which is incidentally true often for product visions or business strategies, what we sometimes are called to as the air sandwich strategy. Vision and direction is clear, day-to-day is clear, but there's no air between those sandwiches. We can't really connect the dots. So I think it's quite uncontroversial, though, that we should have a vision instead of just a plan. This guy didn't say, I have a plan with 23 initiatives. Number 1. Oh. I have a dream, of course. And also, even more importantly, if we want people to be empowered and co-create and help us with this, it's even more important to have this compelling view of where are we headed. And why not use discovery framing tools for that? Inspired is filled with them, opportunity assessments, a press release from the future, and a FAQ describing the details of it, risk mapping. Spotify, we had our own model called success factors and scorecards, product canvas, and there are already, for instance, from Lean Change and Jason Little, who has developed Lean Change canvases and so on. And there are great approaches also from product development on how you actually forge a product vision, like the product vision sprint. Why not use that as a change vision sprint? I'm not going to go into the details of it, but it's kind of design sprint concept. You work intensely with everyone needed for a week to really iterate on this and exploring the now, imagining the future, creating the story, test it with stakeholders and polish and share. I'm going to go a little bit into detail in an approach that we've used several times. And I should probably have said this in the beginning. This is a little bit experimental or exploratory. You could say that in the beginning, many years ago, I started, of course, viewing, okay, what if we apply Agile to the way we introduce Agile? But the more, when I worked at Spotify, where we had our own version of the product model, it of course became more, how can we apply product thinking, which I felt opened up all these discovery practices and tools and so on. But transformations take time, change takes time, so there are very long loops to test different things in practice. But this is one of my typical go-to things that I've tried many times. So it's basically some kind of future perspective. So we would do with a leadership team. What if we're widely successful? You know, in 2 years' time, we exceed your wildest expectations and dreams, and what does it look like and feel like? What is actually different? And we start from that, and also building on your strengths and look at where could we be is ambition setting. We've often done some kind of what great could look like before that, and then okay, but given these clusters of our direction, where are you today? Acknowledging that we're not starting from zero, but also doing kind of a shared understanding of the current state. Where are we? And then also not that different, but where the product approach comes into me is that then we next go to, okay, given these focus areas or the direction that we've now agreed on, how do we know that we're getting there? And we often have to introduce the concept from product development of leading and lagging indicators, getting both what is the long-term reason, impact that we want to have, but also how could we week to week measure an outcome that we're actually getting there? What would that look like? And one benefit that has is really rooting out misunderstanding and misalignment. Everyone wants to be transparent, everyone wants to be empowered, everyone wants to delight the customer. But when we start looking at what measurements would show us that week over week, then it turns out people have very different views on what it actually means. So now we do the kind of design thinking diamond or go through the groan zone to hash out this misalignment to become more clear about it. These are some examples. We've done it in Miro or with the classical Agile coach one-trick pony tool, the post-its on a whiteboard. And what I found, and that I think is different to just taking an Agile or approach to change, is that this change discovery has acted as a transformation catalyst in the sense that they don't just clarify the transformation vision or direction, they also provide secondary gains in that we call transformation catalysts. Because they teach the leaders that we work with, the executive team often, and we often do this also with transformation teams or cascade it to lower leadership levels depending on the size, in actually starting thinking, which they often lack, outcome focus, product metrics, leading and lagging indicators. And also, as a side effect, it's rare that our clients will ask us to, can you come in and teach us how to facilitate change? They're not interested in that. But as a consequence, we do that. We introduce collaborative problem solving and discovery practices and so on, just through working on the change. Or in some rare instances, the company is already skilled in product discovery and so on, and then it becomes natural and easy. And then we'd rather try to understand how can we view the organization as a product or as an operating system that you as leaders are basically product managers for. And that is an analogy that typically resonates. I also want to say briefly on vision and direction. I don't like everything Dave Snowden says and does, but I like this quote. If you start a journey with a sense of direction, then you are open to novelty on the pathway and to making different choices. Starting a journey is more likely to bring people with you as their and your needs co-evolve in the process of journeying, and more specific goals can be agreed upon as the landscape becomes clearer. If you simply declare a goal from a position of authority, then you can never trust the authenticity of the response. So that's why we develop direction iteratively. So typically we would start doing that workshop or something similar with an executive leadership team, and already from 1 day or two come out with a draft change story, draft indicators that could be applied for change KPIs or OKRs. And then we would start, okay, maybe place some bets or do some activities in line with those goals, and then we would learn. That's a very typical approach called single loop learning, but we would also try to do double loop learning. Okay, what we're trying now and what we're experimenting and the results that we see, how does that actually shape and inform our understanding of the goal? So we typically start with a very broad and generic, okay, what could you expect from this change, and have a dialogue on it. And then we contextualize and refine it as we learn more together of the organization and their specific needs. As Evie said this morning, the adaptation, not the imitation. I've actually seen safe implementations where they say, what's the outcome? What's the goal of this transformation? And they show me the safe picture of what other companies have achieved with the transformation. And that's not really, making it your own. And because we have this analogy, why not use discover planning techniques, opportunity solution trees, Spotify's thoughtful execution framework, user story maps, etc., to structure and plan and actually work with the transformation. So at many places, we've used OKRs and objectives and key results, and in that way introduce, yes, Evie, the right way of doing OKRs. As a product purist, we sometimes can be. No, but at least try to give an idea of what good can look like. But also to follow this model, really, how can we communicate the strategic focus and the insights behind it as objectives, give teams problems to solve, and involve them in the change. And sometimes use this approach. It's called DIBS is a framework that we developed at Spotify. Maybe some of you are familiar with it. It's data, insights, beliefs, and bets. So we gather data, things we observe about the organization, product, etc. Extract insights, learnings, theories, conclusion. Then from that, we formulate beliefs, hypotheses built on insights that offers direction for the bets that we place. And that's the work that we do to test the beliefs or as a consequence of the beliefs. We see a skill gap, so we need to do training. And we gather data, and it goes on and on, hence the 8. So for instance, often we do early discovery interviews, value stream workshops, or idea to delivery workshops, and so on. Request a lot of documents, and we would try to extract insights in important categories, delivery, discovery, strategy, competencies, and so on. And that then we formulate beliefs. Okay, we believe that the change direction workshop will create a shared understanding of blah, 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 blah. We will have an introduction course that will give you a common language and da, 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 da. And we often have a pretty good idea and then phrase these bets, but we customize them and co-create them with the client. And then place bets, run change direction workshop, and etc. And we evaluate the results of workshops and courses and other things that we're doing, just as an example. And this product thinking goes back to when we introduced tribes at Spotify in 2012. We really tried to think about what do we actually mean? What are we trying to achieve? We were talking about how do we get bigger and still feel small? But what does that mean? It means how do we increase our impact and still support people feeling like they have access, are part of establishing direction, are autonomous and trusted, and have a strong sense of relatedness in this new tribe? And how do we minimize dependencies between the tribes and keep most of them inside the tribes? Those were some metrics that we went around and measured and asked the teams and so on, and did a form of qualitative research. So we would ask to evaluate, is this working with the dependencies? But we would also get generative knowledge when we talk to users, like, yeah, we have lots of dependencies still, but they're not impacting us. That's interesting. Why are they? We would assume that they would impact you, and then we learn about different dependencies. Some are collaborations, some are bad dependencies. Yeah, and do different type of health checks or assessments to see, are we actually reaching the goals that we set out with designing the organization like that? And we've kind of refined that over the years and tried to think in change bets. Who's the target users? Just like we would with a product idea. What outcome are we trying to create? How do you think this initiative will drive this outcome? What will users say about it? What's a key metric to move for this initiative? How can we validate it? And you have some examples of bets and survey results we placed there. But also, going deeper into the Going even further with the product principles, we started thinking about transformation also as it is actually adoption. So this is one view of adoption, the 4 forces influencing a customer switch to your product. Well, there are reasons to switch, problems with the current product, the current way of working, and attraction to this new product. But there are also existing habits and allegiances. There are anxiety and uncertainty of change. But a lot of research and work has been put into how can we increase adoption. Increasing the push away, increasing your product magnetism, decrease the fear and uncertainty of change, and decrease their attachment to the status quo. I think this is a much better way also to introduce change, not thinking of it as a resistance. It's like, wow, we have this great product. If only people could understand it and use it. And I would try it on someone and say, I don't get it. You're resisting our product. No, that's feedback. What do we actually have to know or change with our product to make it more appealing for you to use it or make it a better fit for what you're doing? So in product development, adoption is key to product success. Not enough to release it. You have to find market fit. It has to be embraced by the users, continuously improved based on this feedback. And in a transformation, it's also not enough to roll out new practices or structures and just have training and so on. The organization have to adopt them in a way that creates value with continuous feedback and iteration. So we've started experimenting with more of product adoption techniques. We've kind of already been doing this, but not in such a structured way as we do in product discovery and so on. So how can we better understand our users, use empathy maps and things like that, maybe personas based on actual data and insights? How can we provide a more seamless onboarding? How can we decrease friction? Maybe we need to offer personalized support depending on different segments of the organization. How can we better leverage customer success stories, bright spots and so on, and continuously improve the user experience? And that's also open up, and we haven't been able to go have any full experience in this, but using because compliance and other things with some of our clients means that we can't record in the same way for handling. But we're currently in talks to try to do something like that. But this is Dovetail, for instance, that you would use to transcribe and detect and synthesize stories. So we could use that in opportunity solutions trees. Tell us the last time you didn't want to follow the whip limits. I'm looking at Håkan here. What stopped you? What happened? What are the obstacles? How can we decrease that friction? What can we do to understand how we can make this easier for the user to adopt our product? And also then it becomes useful to think about it as an adoption curve. I first met that concept actually from Steve McConnell's book, More Effective Agile. So credits where credit's due. And realize that we have innovators and early adopters, and maybe those are the ones that we want to start working with or attract first to get these customer success cases that will convince the early majority and so on. And that's also working with the willing, invitation based, and also having people involved in co-creating the change. I don't know if you've heard this story from Daniel Kahneman's experiment on writing your own lottery number. But they did an experiment where they gave half the audience lottery numbers randomly, and then the other half could write their own. And then they offered to purchase the lottery tickets back. And the people who had written their own number were 3 times less, or wanted 3 times higher payment than the one who had received them randomly. Even though rationally they would have a lower chance because they could have written the same number and would have to split the profits. And this also sometimes called the IKEA effect, when you collaborate or when you put your own work into something, you get more attached to it. So if not for other reasons, that reason alone. And this is why we work with squad health check models and the like. I'm not particularly fond of this version, but it's so well known as an icon. But we have our ideas on what it means in a product model context, but we would also contextualize it as we learn more together with the client and have them take more ownership about it. But it's more for the team to assess. Okay, so it's a way of socializing the product or the direction, the change that we want to have. What does it mean for you as a team? And if, we aren't pawns or players, for instance, are you able to decide yourself how to figure out the solution, or are you just being told by stakeholders? We're mainly, they will get a shared understanding of that. They will understand what can we do differently, and take ownership of improvement actions and so on themselves. Golden path thinking, also a concept that we had at Spotify for an opinionated and supported path on how to build or do something. For example, build a backend service, or set up a website, or collaborate in a team. It's also Netflix's paved path concept, or paved road. And it makes it easy to support a way, to support an easy and streamlined way of working, and create consistency through what we call a path of least resistance. So here are some recommended practices that we've maybe tested early with pilot teams, prototyping it, that should work for most cases. And here are some customizations or some extra ambitious practices and things that you could be doing. But if you are an adventurer, feel free to go off the course and leave the path and do your own thing. You won't have the same support, but at least this way you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and you just have to comply or explain. But then the ownership is on you. And we would do that by having good training and explanation and workshops on why is it important to have a stand-up or a planning or do this discovery technique. What's the outcome that we want to reach? And they could say, that outcome isn't relevant for us. Okay, fine, great, don't do it. Or we're reaching that outcome in another way. Great, let's hear it. And maybe we can spread that and build the practice library, and others can discover what they can do. And they could say, no, we don't just want to do it. Okay, but it's on you then when we follow up together later and see, are you reaching the outcomes? And if you're not, well, it's easy to resist or be against or not want to buy certain practices. But it's harder to not be on board with, no, I don't want to delight the customers. No, I don't want us to deliver or to get to money faster or some things like that. Collaborative org design is another way we've done this. Happy to talk more about it in open space. We've also just published an article on that, and another is actually coming later today if I have the time, or on Monday. Where we actually involve the teams, not just in self-selecting teams, but actually creating and designing what teams should we be having. Some adoption curve implications are that some transformation efforts and initiatives is very front heavy, bringing consultants and everyone and do training and so on, and then you get some early results, ideally. But that might be because you have the early adopters. They are the people who are willing to try and change things and can find the time and will be eager and curious. And then you're like, great, we're on a good path. And you kind of roll back the training, and you haven't hired your own product coaches or agile coaches or whatever it might be. The leaders haven't been trained in how do we actually sustain and continue with this. And now you're coming to the early majority or even the late majority. They won't do anything unless it's proven to work. Their managers are already doing it, and that's the only thing they're talking about, and it's carved out time for them, and they get the resources and everything like that. And that's when you maybe actually stopped supplying those resources. So I'm going to stop there with examples and thoughts and ideas, and just say some lessons we've learned. And that's the thing that I talked about, the transformation catalysts, teaching product model thinking to key people early and get them to experience it in practice. And it becomes much easier for them to help the teams and support them in doing it, get a better understanding of it. And the Trojan horse concept, leverage the desire to learn product model to also teach organizational change facilitation and continuous improvement. So applying those product development techniques and so on that they actually asked for also on the organization, and increasing the chances for the self-sustaining change. And this opens up a way of engaging and leverage other competencies: product managers, product designers, user researchers, data scientists, and product analysts. And this is to many companies, these are new skill sets and new things, but it's coming more and more. And wouldn't it be great if we could leverage that kind of skill in also helping and assisting with this change and open up for using their competence, as we've seen in helping this. And it naturally integrates a wide range of effective tools and practices from product discovery, etc. Some challenges: too much work. We're a typical overloaded, super busy output delivering client, but that's just like regular product discovery. Oh, we would love to do it, but it seems like we have so much to ship. If you're not ready to carve out the time to do change in a proper way, well, you're not going to get the results you hoped for. And it's of course hard when you don't have the skills and tools and data. But there's no way around it. You just have to roll up your sleeves and do it. And isn't it overkill? Can't we just do it for some things? You know, do we really need to view it as a bet that we should have training and have a feedback loop? Isn't it kind of obvious? Well, it is about adoption and results. So beware of domain dogma that everyone knows that we should be doing this. And also, this can be a good way on a safe to fail opportunity to practice your discovery muscles for something that isn't that difficult. But also, we have noticed that actually applying this thinking and feedback and so on helps you refine and better understand what is an effective training, who is actually participating in these things, and you learn things about your users. And yeah, user-centric discovery and co-creation of way of working can be hard if people are stuck in another mental model. So you can't just say, here are the problems. You know, there are some schools of thoughts where you work with the adjacent possible, you start fixing things, you have it inside you. Well, we've tried that, and it's like, yeah, we need to write longer specs, more requirements up front, and so you need someone who can actually help them shift mental model. Product managers with a vision that can translate, we want faster horses, into, no, maybe actually a car that you need. For example, consultants like us. So, does this resonate with you? Would it help your organization, transformation or changes or continuous improvement of the organization, or reorgs to view it as a product or apply product thinking on it? Why? Why not? I would love to hear your thoughts and ideas and comments in an open space session that I will post soon, probably the first half hour of the open space. And I'll be around for questions and comments. Thank you.